Welcome to Mathematical Math with Jen. I hope things are going well with you today. This is our first video of this course on elementary math education, and we're going to start at the beginning, of course. Just a little bit of background about me. I've been teaching college math for about 25 years. That ranges from statistics to calculus, and my most recent thing here is math for elementary educators. So helping future teachers and talking about math topics taught in the K through 6 classroom and different tools that you guys can use to help students learn. So that's what this set of videos is all about. So to get started, we're going to look at our very first lesson talking about different types of numbers and some different tools and topics just to kind of get us started. So here we go. All right, so we have, as you can see, the beginning. So we're going to look at numbers, different tools, topics, all that good stuff. And I love how it's not working. There we go. Elementary math, all about numbers. So yeah, when we talk about math, students normally think numbers. Is that all math is? No, it's also shape recognition. You've got your two-dimensional shapes like squares and circles and triangles to your three-dimensional like cylinders, cones, cubes, all that kind of stuff. Of course, you've also got counting, recognizing patterns. They even drop a little bit of statistics these days. So yeah, it's more than just numbers. It's about problem solving and building critical thinking skills. So in this course, we're going to look at a variety of topics taught through K through 6th grade. We're going to focus on Common Core approaches and see how it goes. All right. So what is a number versus what is a digit? So words are created with letters, right? Well, similarly, numbers are created using digits. So there are 10 digits, 0 through 9, and we can build anything with those 10 digits. We can build big numbers, small numbers, fractions, decimals, you name it. So for lower grades, we usually focus on whole numbers, but that being said, whole numbers technically include 0. When you ask a student to count, they're not going to go 0, 1, 2, right? You ask a student to count, they're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. So technically those are called natural numbers. So natural numbers are numbers that are 1 on and on and on as far as you can go. No decimals, no fractions. When we add 0 to the list is what becomes whole numbers. Now that being said, most students are gonna call natural numbers whole numbers. It's okay. Okay, as far as I'm concerned, it's okay. But technically the distinction is if you add 0, that's a whole number. Okay, so let's talk about decimals and fractions just for a little bit. They are called rational numbers. So they are definitely not whole numbers, okay? Rational numbers are all fractions and decimals that end or repeat. And the reason why there's that distinction is that decimals that end or repeat come from a fraction. So like, for example, the decimal 0.25 comes from a fraction like 1/4, okay? I said like 1/4, there are other fractions that also are equivalent that will give 0.25, 0.25. Whew. Yeah. So anything that ends comes from a fraction. If it repeats, so something like you can see down here, 2/3. 2/3, if you convert it to a decimal, is 6 forever. And of course, the way that we write a repeating 6 is put a bar on it. So if it repeats, again, it came from a fraction. So fractions will have decimals that end or repeat. Okay, so we're going to look at these in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. And in this course, we're going to look at them in Unit 3. Okay. Now, what happens if a decimal doesn't end or doesn't repeat? That is the good old pi. That's an example. There are more examples than just pi, okay? But pi is kind of the biggest one. And this one, again, it's called an irrational number. So this is a decimal that never ends, never repeats. All right. Integers are all the whole numbers and they're negative. So these are typically started in 6th grade is when you start talking about negative whole numbers, so integers. It continues on until middle school / junior high, high school. Yeah, you're going to play with negatives. Now, those grades will also look at negative decimals, but that's not technically an integer. Negative decimals And negative fractions are example of what are called real numbers. But for our purposes in our course, we're not going to look at negative decimals or negative fractions. We're just going to look at integers, so negative whole numbers. That will occur in Unit 4. Okay, so I also said that this video we were going to talk about learning tools. So that would be different visual tools that students can draw on their paper, or manipulative, so tactile objects that they can play with that can really help with their fine motor skills. You may have some students that have a need to improve those fine motor skills. So this could be a great way to learn math and do that at the same time. So today we're gonna just tackle the first 3 on this list, which are number bonds, tape diagrams, and Base-10 blocks. The other things on the list we're gonna look at during different parts of our course. So we'll look at fraction tiles when we start talking about fractions. We'll look at number lines. Actually, in second grade math, they'll use number lines. So we'll see number lines sprinkled at lots of different grades. We'll look at discs and, of course, laminated charts. Always help. So today we're going to start off, though, with number bonds. So here's a number bond. I like to think of it as like math flashcards, like math facts, like 2 + 3 is 5. But they're using shapes to connect the whole and the 2 parts. So you can see here that we've got our whole, whatever number we're going to play with, and we're going to break it up into 2 parts. Now, what I love about number bonds, they're simple. They are able to be modified. So you can modify using dots or numbers. So if you've got a first grader who maybe isn't quite there yet with knowing that 3 + 2 is 5, you could have them, draw 3 dots and then count on to see how many they need to get 5. Or they could even look at this one and go, okay, if I have 3, here's our 3. So that 3 is going to come down here, and then our 2 are going to come over here. Again, dot, or you can also use numbers. Okay. Now, as you can see over here, we've got some sort of fill in the blanks. This one's got squares. This one has a domino. Dominoes are natural number bonds that you can do lots of fun activities with in first grade. So here again, you could have your students count out 4, count out 5, fill in that number bond, and then what the total should be. So really simple but effective. Tape diagrams. Tape diagrams are used pretty much in all the grades K through 6. Actually, I should be careful. I don't know if they're used in kindergarten, but definitely first. Tape diagrams are basically just a long, skinny rectangle. You can cut them into exactly the same size partitions or pieces. You could have some be bigger, some be smaller. For me, I think the best use of tape diagrams is probably in multiplication and division, because it's that element of fair share and you can really kind of see it. So here we've got a multiplication problem that asks how many legs are on 8 tables. So assuming that you have 4 legs per table, you can see here they've drawn 8 boxes. So these boxes are representing the 8 tables, and they're writing the number 4 in it. So it's repeated addition, which is multiplication, and we have 8 times 4 is 32. So there's a tape diagram example that's for multiplication. Okay. I actually like it for division a little bit better. So we've got 20 balloons, 5 children. If we're going to do fair share, how many will each kid get? Now, I will say this one, it is true, right? 20 divided by 5 is 4, so it is true. But if you have a student who's just learning division and they have no idea really where to start, let me show you how this tape diagram to build it from scratch could be really helpful. So as you can see, I'm making mine a little bit bigger. That's just so I can work with it. And we're going to make 5 boxes to represent the 5 kids. Okay, so if we have 20 balloons that we're going to share, we can fair share and count it out. So again, I'm saying students are just learning the concept of division. They're not there yet with their math facts. We want them to still be able to problem solve. So here we go. We're going to draw dots. So count 1, 2. No, I don't want to end my show. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and keep going. And yes, it's a little tedious for you and me, but this might be what a student needs in order to make that connection. And as you can see, we get the same answer of 4, but instead of writing 4, the number, we're writing 4 dots. So over here, you can see we've got a couple more dot examples. So this is a chart from a teacher's classroom. Here's one saying that we've got 12 apples that apparently we're sharing between 2 baskets or 2 people. And we even can use these tape diagrams when we move on to fractions. So really, really helpful and useful. So don't sleep on tape diagrams. They're very, very helpful. Okay, Base-10 blocks. These are a great learning tool. They're used in mostly first and second grade. I'm not saying you couldn't use them in higher grades, but that's kind of the most popular use, maybe third. They are blocks, a clever name, I know. And what we've got is each shape represents a place value. So if you think of our place value system, we have ones. Let's see if you can see it down here. Ones, tens, hundreds, and thousands. And so what we have is one little cube, but it's honestly called a unit. Okay. A stick, which is called a rod, that representing 10. The flat is 100, and then a cube is 1,000. Okay. Now, this set here might look a little bit boring because they're all blue, but this is actually hard plastic that actually interlock. So again, those fine motor skills could be kind of helpful. Typically, they also have sets which are a little bit cheaper that are made out of foam. No shame in that. They just don't interlock, but they absolutely work. You can make your own set with just paper or different objects. I watched a video once where a woman was using glow stick for the rod, and I think she had some weird like eyeballs. It was like a Halloween episode, but it's pretty cool. She had different things that she was using to represent the sticks for the tens and the little units for the ones. You can get as creative as you want. So the whole point of this, if you're wondering, what do you do with this? The beginnings is that you would represent a number using Base-10 blocks. So how many hundreds do you need? How many tens do you need? How many ones do you need? But we will actually use them as a teaching tool for addition, for adding and carrying, and subtracting and borrowing. So there is a practical application. So down here, if you look at this one, we've got 1, 2, so this would represent 200. This is 5 tens, so that would be 50. And we've got 6 little units, so that's 6. So this is representing the number 250. Okay, awesome. So just some things to keep in mind. Although sometimes number bonds and tape diagrams can seem very simple, they are very adaptable. And the Base-10 blocks are as well. So you can use paper and have students draw. You could also create an activity. So as you can see in these images, we've got number bonds down here that it looks like, I can't tell, they might be some beans, little white beads of some sort, but I think they might be beans. Over here, we've got some little cubes. And so they're, again, creating an activity where they're working on those fine motor skills, as well as doing the math at the same time. Go out there and search and see some cool stuff. I already mentioned that dominoes are a cool way to do number bonds. With tape diagrams, I've also seen teachers use egg cartons. So if you split the egg carton into one long strip, they are kind of like natural partitions, and you can have students put their little pom-poms or cubes or beans or whatever it is in there to solve problems that way as well. So again, lots of cool ideas that are out there. I'm just here to help show you some of them. Okay, this is only the beginning. We've got a long way to go. So we'll touch on things like discs, fraction tiles, number lines, the whole shebang. Okay. Always remember the age, grade of your student, the ability. Do you have someone who's really advanced, so they don't really want to do dots for a while? They're ready to go to digits and numbers. Do you have the opposite? Somebody needs a little bit more soft handling, and so they do need that extra little care. I will say, as the parent of an autistic son, I definitely had to come up with different ways for my son to learn when he was in the lower grades, especially, and work on those fine motor skills and make those connections. So I definitely can talk as a parent that these can be really helpful for anybody struggling. But again, the opposite could be true too, where you have somebody who's really advanced, and so modify these approaches where it's appropriate. Okay. All right. And that's our first lesson. Woohoo! So I hope you had some fun maybe learning about these topics. Our next lesson in the series is going to be on Egyptian numerals and Roman numerals, and a little bit of Mayan as well. So a little bit of a history lesson and some fun things that you could possibly bring into your future classroom. Okay. All right. With that, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and thanks for learning with me. I hope you had a good time. Bye-bye.